us Democrats are actually the most patriotic people in this country.
Okay, boy chin wonder, then why are the Democrats the ones always cheering, I hate America? Why are they the ones always saying fuck America and burning the American flag? Jesus Christ, did your mom drink when she was pregnant with you? There was 300 million fucking sperm and you won. And now we have the fucking Crimson Chin trying to tell us that the people burning the flag and the people saying fuck America and I hate America and America's the root of all evil and America's the worst country on the planet, they're the ones that love America. Somewhere right now there is a tree working overtime to replace the oxygen that you waste. Saying that Democrats are the ones that actually love America is like saying that vegans are the ones that actually love cheeseburgers, or that Greta Thunberg really loves hanging out in coal mines. It's honestly really fucking insulting to say that the people burning the flag are the most patriotic. If there was a competition for saying the dumbest shit possible, you just won an Olympic gold medal. It's absolutely fucking wild if your parents had you on purpose. So why don't you, in that dumbass comment, turn around and walk right out the fucking door you came in? Just make sure you let your chin out first.
Okay, let's see if this works better. Is that better? Is that better? Okay, let's see if this works. Is that better? This is doing that echo thing. Okay, let's see if this works. No. Is that better? It's doing that thing where I'm staticky again. All right, hold on a second. Let's try this. Okay, test, 1, 2, 3. That's test. Oh, I think I fixed it. I think we're good now. I think we're good now. Oh, yeah. Still sounds like there's a little echo, which is like staticking on me. No, it's breaking up. It's breaking up on me now. F me. I don't think this is it. I don't think it's two. I don't think it's two streams chats running simultaneously. I don't think that's it. That's not it. Yeah, I'm seeing the crackling. It's choppy. It's definitely on my end. No, I'm not giving up on this stream. It's not. I don't think it's a bad wire. It shouldn't be that. I sound fine now, you say? All right. I still hear the choppiness. We're gonna try this out. I can hear myself echoing here. I mean, I'm listening to myself as I'm talking, and I hear the choppiness. Okay, let me remove this. Let me see if it works better now without me having that thing added in. I think this might be better. Yeah, I switched out of motif because no one could hear me on motif. That's when I was muted. All right, let's just go. I'm just gonna keep going as I'm going. All right, I'm gonna start all over again. All right, let's start this all over. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Tonight, I'm trying something new where I have two streams. And I'm working with two different streams, right? Where now StreamYard has this thing where they enable me to stream in both landscape and portrait mode at the same time. Those of you who are on your phone probably would prefer portrait mode. Those of you who are not on your who are watching on a TV or anywhere else would probably prefer it in landscape mode. I normally stream just in landscape mode. So now I'm able to stream in both, and I decided, hey, let's try that out. In fact, let's do me big. Ooh, why is that not that much bigger on? It's not that much bigger on in portrait mode. I'm able to see both of them at the same time, which is kind of cool. Anyway. Right. Trust me, if you haven't been a streamer, when you have audio problems when you start off, that's going to kill your. It is glitching, right? It's seriously glitchy sound. This one isn't choppy. Which one are you on? The mobile stream is 100% better than the computer stream. Let me try listening to this one live. Yeah, this one sounds good live. Why the heck is that? It's not me. That means it's not me. This is not on me. I'm watching on this one. Mother effer. All right, let me try watching on the other one now. Yeah, the other one is all messed up. The landscape one is all messed up. But landscape in both is messed up. It's not YouTube. Landscape in both is messed up. Because I think it's also screwed up in Rumble. This is not on me. Oh, I feel much better. I feel much better. But this means that it's probably a StreamYard thing, right? It has to be a StreamYard thing. The StreamYard landscape version is screwed up because it's working perfectly on the other one. No, you're asking me if there's a chance of 2 sets of settings. No, that the only thing they say is, for this, do you want landscape or portrait? And what I did was for YouTube, I clicked that I wanted to have both. And that's what made them create 2 different streams. And the one that's streaming to portrait is working fine. The one that's going to landscape is garbage. And it's garbage in both YouTube and Rumble, which means that it's a StreamYard landscape issue. This is about as much fun as you can have while streaming, trust me. This is what everyone wants to be dealing with while they're streaming. Wow. I'm just checking back on that other one. It's totally fine over here. In the portrait one, it's totally fine. This is not on me. I need to get StreamYard on the phone. This is a disaster. All right, I'm going to give you all the. I'm going to post the link to the portrait version because you should be able to hear me on the portrait version. So this is the portrait version. No, Kim, I ended up not getting there. I appreciate the muted and the last $2 muted, and I'm losing my mind over the socialists. This really makes life so much harder. So much harder. I am so sorry. This is humiliating. This is really damaging. It's totally fun on the portrait version. All right. One of the things I wanted to ask y'all was this thing that I shared in the beginning here. This thing that I shared in the beginning. As if this doesn't completely destroy my entire thing. So this is what I shared in the beginning for my opening. And I don't know who this woman is. I don't want to know this woman. I don't like watching stuff where I have some stupid no content added, nothing, no benefit added, just someone sitting there fake laughing to whatever it is that I'm watching. I don't want that. That's not cool. Also, why the heck is the landscape getting smaller and smaller like that? It's like it's changing the whole thing on me. All right, StreamYard, you're really screwing up now. I'm really not liking I'm not liking this whole thing, StreamYard. I don't know what the hell they're doing. This is wrong. This is so wrong. God. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know who this woman is. I have no idea. I have no idea what or who she is. I don't want her. I don't want her anywhere. I don't want to have anything to do with her. I just want the guy. The guy is funny. And I'm figuring one of you has to know who this guy is. So basically, the main reason I shared this stream is because I want one of you to tell me who the heck this guy is, because this guy seems like he's talented, intelligent, and funny. But it is Micro Joe. This is so dumb. This is so pathetic. I can do it this way. But it's... This way, the video is tiny. This is just impossible. Wow, StreamYard is really pissing me off. I'll do it this way. On the other thing, I'm like really narrow here. This is so messed up. Maybe this is best. That's probably best. We're going to go with this for now. I don't know if I do it like this. No. This. This one's the best. All right. Yeah, so I don't know who this woman is, but and I don't even know what the hell I was going to talk about anymore. I had a show here. I had a great show. I had a show for you all. I'm still going to plow forward. I'm not canceling this show. I felt terrible about canceling the show Saturday night when I had all these audio problems. I'm not canceling this one. We're going forward, and we're going to basically be doing this like it's like this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And I apologize. I apologize for this. I feel less guilty because I feel like this is less on me and more on StreamYard. So, trying to figure out why it is in portrait I can't remove the frame at all and just fill up the entire screen, because that's what I would ideally like to happen in the portrait version. So you don't see the frame around me, but it just sort of fills. Oh, that's not what I want. Yeah. I can relax and move forward, but this is kind of like what I use to pay my bills. And if I'm delivering a crappy product, whether it's me or StreamYard, no one cares. It's just a crappy product. So in that sense, it's kind of frustrating. All right. Tonight's topics are The end of the Democrats' shutdown, and it was 100% the Democrats' shutdown. They shut down the government for 40 days while complaining that people were going hungry because of the shutdown, and then saying, oh, it's Trump who shut it down, not that he's even related to Congress in this context. He has literally zero to do with anything about the shutdown, but they kept trying to call it Trump's shutdown, and the purpose of the shutdown was so that they could try to win the election on Tuesday and last Tuesday, and sadly, it worked. The public rewarded them. So it seems. It seems like it worked. You think they're not going to shut down next year? I can promise you they will. I'll be shocked if they don't. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do the same thing next year? They'll do this every year. Shut down, try to win elections. Oh, I wanted to share here. Did I share this here? I'm going to. I forgot to share this in. I pinned a message in Rumble for you ghetto folk if you want a cleaner version, and I apologize that I don't have a clean one for you in whatchamacallit. I don't have a clean one for you on Rumble. They have to go to the YouTube. I know you hate going there. It's very, very thoughtful of you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyhow, where was I? Yeah, so the shutdowns have basically were a Democrat-inspired crap fest, and then they would complain that Trump shut down the government and he's starving 40 million people. And then they played chicken with, like, you know, what are we going to do? Are you going to open up? You're going to open up? You can give us what we want? You give us what we want? And the insanity ensued. So over the weekend, and I called this a week ago, I even made a bet with Cynical, when he came on. I made a bet with him, and I said to him, dude, within 1 week, the government is going to open. Some of you may recall. He's like, no way. I was like, no, they will within 1 week. He even gave me 2-to-1 odds. So now he owes me $10. Woohoo, cha-ching. Anyhow, bottom line is, it all started with a procedural vote. Why is it a procedural vote? Because that's just the way the Senate works. They have to take a step of, like, basically a vote as to, like, whether or not we're going to have a vote. And you needed 60 senators, which meant that they needed, 8 senators to cross? 8 senators to cross over? 8 Democrat senators to cross over to vote to open the government? And Bernie Sanders was very upset. He's very, very upset when this whole thing came down. Very, very upset. Here's Bernie. Let's do it. I hope the audio is going to be good like this. Very, very upset when he saw it coming. This was yesterday.
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote. What it does, first of all, is it raises healthcare premiums for over 20 million Americans by doubling, and in some cases tripling or quadrupling. People can't afford that when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for healthcare. Number 2, it paves the way.
So 20 million Americans, they say, 20...
For 15 million people to be thrown off of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Studies show that will mean that some 50,000 Americans will die every year unnecessarily.
Studies show. Okay. You were telling us that 42 million Americans were starving. Now you're talking about 20 million Americans who are not going to have health care or pay more money for health care. Like, what does that even mean? Like, why are you more worried about 20 million Americans having health care coverage or paying more? Presumably they're wealthier. They have more money than people who can't afford food. I'm going to tell you this. In the whole Mendel's Punnett Square thing, Piaget triangle thing, when you look at the bottom levels, the first thing you worry about, is food. Now, I'm not going to deny that medicine comes a little bit right after that. I mean, medicine's really, really, really important. It's really important. But you know what's more important than medicine? Food. So you're talking about food for 42 million Americans that supposedly they're starving. And I don't doubt that some of them really are. I'm sure that a percentage of that really are. But we kept hearing this number, 42 million, 42 million, 42 million people starving. They have no food at all. And like I said, sadly, I think that there probably were several million who are starving and nowhere to go. And you're putting an end to that, and you're freaked out about 20 million people getting higher healthcare costs. Like, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. And we'll talk about the healthcare costs in a moment. We'll talk about that. But the end of the day, you're talking about food versus food, which is first, then healthcare, much bigger number, smaller number. Like, this is like why would you possibly think that you're in the right here? Why would you think this is a bad day? Assuming that anything you're saying has any truth at all. Why is this a bad day? None of this makes any sense.
And all of that was done to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%.
No, all that was done to feed 42 million Americans, jackass.
As everybody knows.
What are you talking about? No one knows. No one knows what the hell you're talking about. You're literally just making stuff up. Giving 1% to the. What are you talking about?
Just on Tuesday, we had an election all over this country. And what the election showed is that the American people want us to stand up to Trumpism, to his war against working class people.
No. What it says is that they're suckers for your stupid, retardo messaging. That's what it says.
To his authoritarianism. That is what the American people wanted. But tonight, that is not what happened. So we've got to go forward, do the best that we can to try to protect working class people, to make sure that the United States not only does not throw people off of health care, but ends the absurdity of being the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all.
See, that's what this is all about. They just want socialized medicine so they can completely destroy our healthcare system. This is what's so friggin' outrageous about these clowns. They foisted upon us unilaterally, without any Republicans voting for it, this awful Obamacare, this disastrous Obamacare, which doesn't work, isn't good, and is overpriced. And now that it's overpriced, they want us to pay for how overpriced it is. That's what they basically did. We screwed up healthcare with Obamacare, and now we want you to pay for our screw up. This is classic Democrat thinking. We completely screwed up healthcare. You pay for it. We should bring back tar and feathering for these Democrats. Whiskey fun for tough streaming days. Portrait still sounds great. Yeah, thank God for that. So you agree with me, I assume you agree with me that this is a StreamYard thing. This is not a me thing. I'm not skipping. I know I'm skipping in the landscape version. I'm not skipping in the portrait version. So that's why I'm urging you all to come over to the portrait version. I am begging you. I don't want to be skipping. I know that crystal audio is a very important part of streaming. I get it. I understand it. I wouldn't want to listen to someone skipping. I wouldn't want to listen to me skipping. I struggle to listen to me as it is. If it was me skipping, I'd be sitting there just like clapping myself over the ears. So I'm urging you, come over to the portrait version. The link is there, pinned in the chat. Come, please. The audio is crystal clear there. It's not me. It's a StreamYard thing. I intend to contact StreamYard tomorrow and ensure that this is rectified for tomorrow's stream. Don't want you to miss out, but I don't know what else to do at this juncture to help fix the landscape stream that's coming out of StreamYard. And I'm sorry you're frustrated, fellas. Trust me, as frustrated as you are, I am infinitely more frustrated. Bernie's play acting. He's thrilled they laid off bureaucrats keep their jobs, and that the laid off bureaucrats keep their jobs and illegals get snapped. Don't be fooled by the optics. Hopefully the House fixes it. Hopefully. I agree with you on that. Face looking sharp and it looks intentional. Wait, what looks intentional that I did this? Certainly didn't do this intentionally, but thank you. I appreciate it. So that's Bernie Sanders with his stupid lies and the just ridiculous thinking. But the left was all freaking out about this deal. All the people on the left are so angry at these Democrats. Really furious. Check this out. Should we do it this way? We'll try it this way. It's probably better. I think that's better.
All right. We have got to talk about this deal that just passed through the Senate because it is a bad one. Americans cannot afford this deal. I want to set the stage on why the government was shut down.
Please do.
What happened.
Walk us through
because Democrats were only asking for one thing.
No, they were asking for like dozens of things. Dozens of things. Like they wanted to limit Trump's power. So you're already an idiot who's misinforming people. But please continue.
They were asking for an extension of ACA subsidies.
Yeah, why do we need an extension of ACA subsidies? These subsidies weren't coming before COVID. They started with COVID. You want them to be permanent.
To ensure that your healthcare premiums didn't skyrocket.
Yeah, they will skyrocket because ACA sucks. ACA, which is another name for Obamacare, is terrible. It's awful. It's lousy. It's lousy all day Tuesday. But that's what you created. That's a mess you made. And now you want Americans to subsidize these people, which is pretty much kind of like trying to work us closer and closer towards socialized medicine.
And I heard from constituents here in Michigan, it wasn't like health insurance premiums were just going up 10% or 20%. Some of you were reporting seeing your health insurance premiums double, if not triple.
Yeah, thank you, President Barack Obama. Like the one achievement that you have is terrible, lousy. You stink. We always knew you stink. Anyone who actually watched anything you did realized you were a disaster. So now Democrats are finally waking up to that. But instead of recognizing that, they're like, no, why aren't you paying for his complete and total screw up?
I was just up in the Upper Peninsula, and I heard from leaders of UP Health System.
Which makes sense, by the way, because they said that it was going to take 10 years. There was costs that were going to be deferred for 10 years. So that brings us from 2009, when this thing passed, to things starting to skyrocket in 2020. But what happened was we had COVID, and because of COVID, they started subsidizing all these ACAs. So what we're really doing is we're really paying for Obama's lousy, that what he basically did was he bought time. So this way, no one would realize just how terrible, disastrous Obamacare was.
Who are concerned that this is just going to lead to people canceling their health insurance, which means they won't go to doctor's appointments, they won't seek preventative care, they will wait until they are so sick that they end up in the ER.
And your alternative, by the way, is starve 40 million people to death, right? I mean, that's what your solution is.
Now the ER,
and also make all sorts of other crazy demands. They're pretending it's just about the ACA, and the ACA is a factor that they want to subsidize the ACA. But you're pretending that's the only thing. It was not the only thing. There was countless demands you guys made. There was literally dozens of demands that you're idiotic, overreaching. We need to do this now and shut down the government because we don't like the bills you passed. By, democratically passed. We don't like those bills. So since we don't like those bills, we're going to hijack the government, starve people to death, and kick our feet screaming that Trump shut down the government. Because we're a bunch of stinking liars, and idiots like you will shill it out for us.
Is much more expensive, and that cost for that uncovered care is going to be spread on all of us, which means that with this deal, all of our health insurance premiums are going to go up. Now, the Senate is broken. Just like everything else done.
No, the Democrats in the Senate are broken, and you're shilling for them.
Donald Trump has broken our institutions.
No, you see, why? How do you come to that? How does it come to that? This was all Obamacare. You're complaining about Obamacare not being rectified by the taxpayer, and you're saying that's on Trump? Trump is protecting us from the likes of you.
has shown a willingness to callously hurt people, no matter what
You're the willingly, callously, and willingly hurting people. The Democrats said, let's starve 42 million people.
the cost. This is the same administration that denied their own USDA guidance to deny SNAP funding from going out into our communities, even though they did not have to.
Another lie. This is another lie.
In a government shutdown to use food and hunger as a political weapon.
You're an idiot. How is that a political weapon? How is that a political weapon? Why on earth would Trump want to do that? It's the stupidest thing in the world. How on earth is that a weapon? Oh, yeah, this is my weapon. My weapon is I'm going to starve people to death. That's what he wants to do, right? Then I'm going to have people mad at my administration. That's my weapon. Ooh, I have this wild, crazy plan that people will see that their president is starving them to death. That's his weaponization. Like how dumb are people that buy this garbage?
This is something that hurt 500,000 children in Michigan. We got to do things very differently. The old way of doing things is not working. We need
because we saw that last November, not this November.
New leaders in the Senate, and we've shown on the ground.
They're all mad at Chuck Schumer. They are so mad at Chuck Schumer that he can control these people. Let's get some more of them. I'll come back to you. This is Bernie erupting on the floor of the Senate.
And that the way the process has been developed, it is impossible to delay the votes that are going to take place. And if that were not the case, that is certainly what I would do, because I think it is important that the American people fully understand what is being voted on today. Everybody in America knows that our current healthcare system is broken. It is dysfunctional. It is cruel. It is by far the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and the only healthcare system of any major country that does not guarantee healthcare to all people as a human right, covering every man, woman, and child. We are unique in that respect. And
see, that's what he's really mad about. He's mad we don't have socialized medicine. That's all he's mad about.
Yet tonight, what this Senate is about to do is make a horrific situation even worse. So let's be clear what this vote is about. If this vote succeeds, over
42 million people get food.
Over 20 million Americans are going to see at least a doubling in their premiums.
Shouldn't they be the rich who are helping feed the poor and the 42 million Americans?
In the Affordable Care Act. In my state of Vermont and throughout this.
My guy over here. Joe, you make my children scream with this video presentation. I am so sorry. I hope you're watching me on Portrait. Watch me on Portrait. The audio is much better. And I plan on contacting StreamYard to have this rectified tomorrow. I put the link up there. I probably should just change the title of the landscape one to please watch the audio version, the portrait version. Because this is just terrible. Joe, you're making my children scream with this video presentation. Please enjoy a whiskey drink and let someone help you on the IT side before you get kicked outside the wire. I feel like I've been kicked outside the wire already. But I definitely can use a drink. So I will take you up on that, my friend. Thank you. Salud. It's a painful night. It's a painful night. That'll scare you. I didn't mean to put this one here. Hey, look, Rich Barris reached back to me. Rich Barris reached back to me. I haven't noticed that he sent this. I'll check this later, what he said. Yeah, this is two Democrat. These are very popular Democrat podcasters who are angry people, and I just couldn't believe this when I saw this picture. I was just like, ew. Like I thought it was bad before. I thought it was bad when I just saw her face up close. Everything about that was just horrifying. This is that vile woman. But I didn't want to cover her now. That wasn't supposed to be here. That was supposed to come up later. So this was also yesterday. This is the thing I want to share next. Here's Scott Jennings doing what Scott Jennings does.
How are Republicans going to use leverage in their fight with Democrats when the Democrats are actually the ones with the upper hand in the eyes of voters?
Oh, I'm sure Democrats will be more than happy to open the government now. The election's over. I mean, part of the reason they shut it down was to get through tonight.
I mean, I
would suspect they'll be glad to open it up by the end of the week.
Adam Schiff, he was like, hold the line.
AOC, there's lots of rumors of people wanting to open it.
Look,
hold the line.
What is the incentive for Democrats to back down when voters are basically saying Trump's not doing?
You see, you don't see common sense. You don't realize what's happening here. That 42 million people were starving.
Enough. It's the Republicans' fault.
Now, I don't think the number is 42 million. I want to be clear. I don't believe the number is 42 million. I think there's probably a great deal of fraud. But let's assume that it's even a third of that number. That's or 10% of that number. Let's assume it's 10% of that. That's 4 million people starving. And I do think 10% is a reasonable thing as a bare minimum to say, yeah, probably 10% of them really need it. So it's 4 million people starving. You don't care about them. You care about people having to pay higher premiums. Okay.
And then they basically handed the keys in this past election to the Democrats. It's where's the leverage?
Again.
Well, apparently you're wrong, Abby. You're wrong again, Abby, because sure enough, this was yesterday. This was Sunday.
These are blue states electing Democrats, not a shock. Democrats clearly wanted this shutdown to get through Election Day. I do think they are facing pressure from their internal coalitions. The unions, the air traffic controllers, the government employee unions are desperate to get the government back open. They're feeling a little bit of internal heat. But again, the election's now over. I'm sure tomorrow morning phones will start ringing and it'll be open soon enough. This was a political shutdown, and that's what they did. And now we're through the election.
I was actually on day 36, so that was like 5 days ago. This little clip. Well, sure enough. Today, it all came to a screeching halt. It ended. It's over. Which one should I share? Which one? I think this is probably the best one. Here's Dick Durbin, Democrat Senator Dick Durbin, explaining why it is that he crossed the aisle to stand with the Republicans in reopening the government.
After lengthy negotiations, an agreement was reached with the Republican Senate leader, John Thune. We will agree to open the government until January 30th, 2026. During that time, we will pass 3 bipartisan appropriation bills that will fully fund SNAP, WIC, and all the veterans programs, and finish our work on the remaining spending bills for this fiscal year. The agreement would also reverse the Trump administration's mass firings during the shutdown and prevent future ones through January 30th.
So the mass firings that he's been doing since the shutdown, those get reversed and people get rehired, probably with back pay.
We credit Senator Kaine of Virginia for this provision.
Because that's the only thing they got.
Leader Thune has also promised the Democrats an opportunity before mid-December to present a Democratic bill on the floor with proposals to change the law and protect American families from dramatic health care premium increases.
So presenting on the floor doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean they would have the vote in the Senate. It just means it's going to be presented on the floor. So he as the speaker can control what bills come up, and he says, I'll allow that bill to come up as part of like our concession to you. But it doesn't mean the Republicans are going to go along with it, nor should they. And even if they do, it doesn't mean Mike Johnson has to bring it up.
It is my fervent hope that this ends up being a bipartisan effort.
It's my fervent hope that it does not end up becoming a bipartisan effort. They need to scrap what they got here.
It would be such an achievement of the Senate to finally return to that status. I've served in the Senate for 29 years.
Which is 23 years too long.
And I've never seen that kind of offer from a Senate majority. During the historic roll call last.
So he's praising the Senate GOP, the Senate majority, the Senate GOP. So he's basically saying they're better than we ever were when we held the majority. That's essentially what he's saying.
Tonight, I walked across the aisle and met with Senator John Thune, the Republican leader. I told him that I was counting on him to keep his word on this agreement. He assured me he would. The fate of this effort depends on both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
And the House of Representatives they haven't promised you jack. And even if they did, you should take Mike Johnson's word. You should take some caution on that. Take some caution on that. Because Mike Johnson doesn't have to allow, even if they pass the bill in the Senate, he doesn't have to allow it to come up there. And frankly, even if he gave you his word, which he hasn't, but even if he did give you his word, he gave his word to us a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now, when he said that we would have 12 separate spending bills. And we're still waiting on that. So keep your fingers crossed, Dick.
After a 7-week absence, the Speaker Johnson needs to call his members back and join us in the hard work that lies ahead. Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children.
Oh, saying the quiet part out loud. That this whole thing was trying to fight Trump, starving children to fight Trump. That's what he just admitted. Listen to what he just said again, that they were starving children because he doesn't like Trump.
Ahead. Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration.
So we should have just kept it closed as a way of saying, we don't like you, Trump.
I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children.
And that's what they were basically doing. Finally admitting it. Now that the election's over, finally admitting that they shut down the government to say, we don't like you, Donald, and starve people to death. That's what he's admitting there.
Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Yeah, yield the floor. You're a jerk. You guys are evil. So, Bernie again was not happy. Oh, this is the same. This might be the same clip. I can't even tell. And here's Scott Jennings wrapping it up.
And I'll tell you one thing this has exposed, though, the complete and total failure of Obamacare. I mean, it's not affordable.
That's not good.
No, people that have it don't feel like it even is real insurance. And now we see, I mean, it's a mess. And if anytime the government's having to subsidize something like this, it's not working in the first place. And so I think the American people are realizing
this is true.
Just how messed up the American healthcare system is, and the regime under which we live is Obamacare. But look, I think a lot of Republicans do not want people to see skyrocketing premiums, and so we'll see what that debate looks like. This whole thing has exposed this outlandish money laundering scheme where your tax dollars go right into insurance companies, and your health insurance never gets better, your health care never gets better, your health outcomes never get better. That's what we have exposed here. So what our responsibility is as a Republican Party, how do we stop getting your tax money to insurance companies, and how do we put more actual money into the health care of the American people? Because I can assure you, writing a bunch of checks to insurance companies doesn't make your health care any better.
There you go. There you go. That's for sure. That's for sure. But the left is kind of losing it tonight. They're not happy. Very, very not happy. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib expressing that. saying, I don't know if you can see that there. Make this a little bigger for you all. Try to make it big enough for you to see on the phone. Senator Schumer has failed to meet this moment, is out of touch with the American people. The Democratic Party needs leaders who fight and deliver for working people. Schumer should step down. That's from Wildcat Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. And the most predicted, Aaron Rupert is saying, the most predictable development ever. Mike Johnson is not committing to hold a House vote on ACA subsidies, nor should he. And even if he did, it wouldn't be worth the empty words that he says. Here he is, though, weighing in on this issue.
We'd like to bring back to the table because that will actually solve the problem and not just subsidize insurance companies.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill that deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire?
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it. What I'm saying is that we do a deliberative process. That's the way this always works, and we have to have time to do that, and we will in a bipartisan fashion.
If something passes the Senate,
we'd like to bring back to the
He's not. I don't think he's going to bring it up. Maybe he will. I don't know. He's basically saying, let's see what deal they come up with before I decide what we're going to do. Let's see what they propose before I decide what we're going to do. That's what he's basically doing. Why can't doctors operate like a barbershop for routine broken legs, bloody noses, checkups, and blood work? Cash on delivery, fees on the door. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. They're so hoity-toity. We can't even know what they're charging. They're like a restaurant. They're like they're like an overpriced restaurant, which has a massive fancy plate and a tiny little portion in the middle and charges you $400 for your steak. That's like sitting there like this in the middle, sitting like this in the middle of your plate. They never tell you what it is. It's usually a good steak, though. Usually a good steak. Ugh. So it seems like the government is now open. That's a good thing. Here's Graham Plattner for Senate, angry at Chuck Schumer. They're so angry at him. They're all so angry at him.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, it's not really good morning at all.
It's a perfectly fine morning. 42 million Americans being fed.
Gray, rainy, and dreary, but more importantly, it is a bleak morning.
More importantly, it's a bleak morning.
For millions of American families.
Millions of American families.
Some Senate Democrats caved.
Yeah, some of them caved.
They caved and they voted with Republicans. And now up to 20 million Americans are going to watch their health care premiums double, triple, and in some cases quadruple.
Now 40 million Americans are going to eat tomorrow.
Now we are on a path to watch 15 million Americans possibly lose access to health care insurance in the first place. This happened because Chuck Schumer failed in his job yet again.
Failed in his job yet again. I'm all for Chuck Schumer's head being on a chopping block here because he's just a slimy politician. The problem is that everyone on the Democrat side is slimy. So some would say better the devil you know than the one you don't.
Because they do not understand that when we fight, we win.
Really? Did Kamala fight? She didn't fight? Because I don't think she won. So, I don't know. Did Hillary fight? What does this mean? When we fight, we win. That's not true. You fight lots of times and you lose. I don't know. What does this even? It doesn't mean anything. Al Gore fight? I would think so. I thought he did. When we fight, we win.
When we hold the line for working families, for working people, we win.
You've been spitting all over working families and working people forever. The blue state, the Rust Belt abandoned you guys because you stink. So you don't fight for working families. You fight for trans rights and for whatever woke thing is in vogue this particular month. So you've never fought for working. You don't care about anything. They don't. Maybe some of the idiots who are supporting you do, but at the end of the day, it's all about power.
But they don't get this. They see all of this as a game. These are just numbers on a sheet of paper, not people's lives. But I can tell you.
But people's lives. What about 42 million starving Americans? You don't care about them.
Down here in Eastern Maine, a doubling of healthcare premiums destroys families. That's not an exaggeration. That's not hyperbole. That is.
What about if they starve to death? Does that destroy families? Because I think that probably comes a little quicker.
Is real, and it is going to happen now.
So you want children starving to death?
We need to elect leaders that want to fight. We need to elect leaders that care about people, that care about the actual outcomes of policies. That is what
I don't know, Charles. I don't know. I don't know.
Why I am asking all of you, call in today.
I want to be clear in case some of you may be new to the channel. I agree with you. There's a lot of fraud in the SNAP program. There's a lot of fraud. I don't think there's 42 million people who really need it. But I do think probably 10% is safe. I feel safe saying there's at least, okay, even if it's not 10%, even if it's 2.5%, that's 1 million starving Americans. Even if it's just 2 out of 100, it's 1 million starving Americans. That's brutal. Okay, and like I said, let's assume 90% fraud. 90% fraud. I'm not. Forget about the money for a second, because the money, until they weed it out, is going to be gone. But basically, if you're a Democrat, okay, the Democrats who are basically screaming about, that they don't care about how much taxes we throw out. They're always fine with spending. If you're a Democrat, and that's why I keep making this point, if you're a Democrat, you should be saying this is a good deal because at least people are eating. At least all these people are eating. That's something that's more important than healthcare prices. That's my point. So if you're a Democrat, you believe that 42 million number is probably close to being accurate, and you believe that, all those people are starving. Why on earth would you be sitting there complaining about 15 million people having their healthcare premiums in the face of 40 million people starving? It is swastika tattoo guy. This guy's a monster. He is a monster.
Call your senators, call your congresspeople, call your senators and tell them that Chuck Schumer can no longer be leader.
So this is the progressives basically trying to take over. That's part of what's happening here. They're trying to basically use this as a basis to say that Schumer is feckless and ineffective. And he's losing his support pretty quick. I don't think he's long for his leadership. I don't think he's going to keep it much longer. Here's Mike Johnson making a statement about the shutdown coming to an end. This is the one I really wanted to start with, but we'll come to it now.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very thankful to see you all this morning. I'm thankful to welcome you to what appears to be the beginning of the end of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, as shameful as that is. I don't think it's coincidental, you know how I think, but it's after 40 days of wandering in the wilderness and making the American people suffer needlessly. Some Senate Democrats finally have stepped forward to end the pain. It appears to us this morning that our long national nightmare is finally coming to an end, and we're grateful for that. At least some Democrats now finally appear ready to do what Republicans and President Trump and millions of hardworking American people have been asking them to do for weeks. As we said from the beginning, the people's government cannot be held hostage to further anyone's political agenda. That was never right. And shutting down the government never produces anything. It never has, if you study history. And so here we are. I want to remind everybody this morning of another critical point that you've heard me here repeat over and over the last several weeks. It's something that I and Leader John Thune and...
Okay, the question really is this. The question is, what steps are you going to take to ensure that we're not going to be held hostage in an even numbered election year next year. What steps are you going to take to ensure that that's not going to happen? Because it almost certainly will happen. Considering how effective this was for them in the elections this year in shutting down the government, despite the fact that they were the ones to blame for it, it seemed like it was very effective. You have to expect that they're going to be doing the same crap next year. What steps are you going to take in order to ensure this does not happen? And the most obvious one is start passing independent appropriations bills for the following year. I know you have to get this year out of the way. You have to get 25, 26 out of the way, but start working on 26, 27, because that's how you actually can avoid this.
And President Trump and every Republican.
Those of you who joined late, StreamYard now allows me to stream to both portrait and landscape. So I didn't realize it would create two different streams. It has created two different streams, and for one reason or another, the audio on the portrait stream, it's the long one rather than the wide one. The audio on the portrait one is infinitely better than the landscape one. I don't know why that is. I don't understand why it is. I think it's a StreamYard thing. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because it's the same mic talking at the same time and all the audio being shared is exactly the same system. And for one reason or another, StreamYard running through, when it's sending out the landscape version, is all scratchy and staticky, and the portrait one is totally fine. So if you hear me scratchy and gravelly on that stream, the landscape version, I urge you to click the link that's there that's pinned to the chat, and it'll bring you right over to the portrait version.
Leader have all said repeatedly from the beginning, we have always been open to finding
And yes, I prefer landscape a lot also.
Solutions to reduce the oppressive costs of healthcare under the Unaffordable Care Act. We just made clear that we would not and should not ever do that. That is, negotiate as hostages. And I've also reminded you here every morning that this press. Republicans have not just been talking about reducing costs and fraud and abuse in so many areas and in healthcare. We've been actually passing new laws to accomplish that urgent mission for the people, and we will continue to do so.
Yeah. I don't really trust you on that either.
So here's where we are by way of schedule, just so you know, you're following. And if you're not at home, if you're waking up to this good news this morning, the Senate's vote late last night of 60-40 opens the door now. The Senate is moving forward on an amended House CR, a continuing resolution, that will reopen the government until January 30th. Added to that are provisions to fully fund SNAP provisions through the end of the next fiscal year, which is September 2026, guaranteed back pay for all federal workers who have been made to endure these hardships over the last several weeks. And it also includes passage of 3 appropriations bills, which we're grateful to be moving through the process. That is the Military Construction Veterans Affairs bill, it's the Agriculture bill, and the Legislative Branch bill. The Senate will be back in session this morning to finish their job, and we're certainly...
What is the Legislative Branch bill? That sounds like Congress giving itself a raise, doesn't that? What the heck is the Legislative Branch bill? What is that? I want to ask Grok. We're going to ask Grok this question. What the heck? What is the legislative? Oh, let's do it this way. They're totally getting themselves a raise, right? They're totally getting themselves a raise. Oh, it's funding for the operations and activities of the U.S. Legislative Branch for fiscal year 2026. Essential, it makes it basically as they get paid. Personnel salaries, security research service and infrastructure. $4.1 billion for salaries for the Senate. So let's make sure we all get paid, of course. Modest increase, 2 to 3% over 2025. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I told you. I told you. I told you. Yeah, a modest increase about 2. Yeah, of course. There's always the modest increase. The modest increase. They're doing such a whiz-bang job. They're doing such a whiz-bang job. Oh, such a great job that Congress is doing. They need that raise. They earn that raise. Oh, that raise is coming. It's coming to them. Democrats are all awake to the fact Democrats folded for nothing. Yeah, no, they starved people for nothing. That's basically what they did. But it wasn't for nothing. It was to win an election. That's what it really was. They wanted to win an election. And now they did. So, as Jacob says, you do not hate the government enough. You don't. As much as you don't hate them enough. You need to hate them a lot more. I went to Portrait on YouTube via the link, but no live chat there. Plus, hate YouTube inserted ads. There should be a live chat there. There is a live chat there. I might actually see the live chat there when I look. So, yeah, maybe try it again. All right. Where was we? Where was we? Oh, I know where we were. I want to share this. Not really in the mood. I'm not in the mood for Jennifer Welch. Okay, let's talk about ICE. Let's get into ICE. I think there's a lot of ICE stories that I want to cover with you. First things first, in case you're unaware, there was an attempted shooting of ICE agents in Illinois this weekend. I think on November 8th. I think so.
On high alert after a shooter opened fire on officers on the streets of Chicago. The Department of Homeland Security saying a suspect shot at agents from a car window on Saturday afternoon. How scary is that? Before this person sped away from the scene. That shooter is still at large. And it's only the latest in a string of attacks targeting border and immigration authorities. According to the DHS, death threats against ICE officers are up 8,000%. Joining us for more on how authorities are being impacted is Sheriff Mark Daniels of Cochise County, Arizona. Thank you very much for joining us. I always appreciate it when you join us from the field. You're literally like boots on the ground, doing your job and taking the time to talk to News Nation. So we appreciate that. So let's talk about this issue at hand. I mean, this is some really scary stuff that's going on in Chicago. Your thoughts on the Border Patrol shooting?
Well, thanks for having me again, Laura. And let me just say this, since last time I spoke to you and as every day goes by, it only gets worse. Somebody, especially those in law enforcement that are not playing politics, they're out there doing the job they were hired to do, are under assault. They're under attack. As your stats show, we see it. I mean, now we're shooting at the law enforcement. You got to ask the question, where is the community leaders? What I don't hear is the mayor. I don't hear the governor of that state, or even back members of Congress stepping up and saying, I know they can't balance a budget right now, but where are they when it comes to supporting those that are protecting this country? We're not hearing that, Laura. And until we do,
I really do need the support tonight. If you could hit like and subscribe, I'd be most obliged. Because this is tonight the struggle is real.
This is going to be worse and worse for those ICE agents, Border Patrol agents. And I'll say this, America's sheriffs, the majority of American sheriffs is not 100% stand behind that rule of law with our federal agents.
And, you know, you're talking about these agents being shot at. What about the person going to the grocery store?
And he's saying that they need to stand behind. That's what they need to do. they need to stand behind. Quite the contrary to that. This is Brandon Johnson, mayor of Illinois, mayor of Chicago.
Mayor Brandon Johnson is asking the United Nations to intervene to stop your operations. Here is what he said before the UN Human Rights Council. Listen to this.
The federal government.
This guy is a lunatic. When you're listening to this, ask yourself if this is like conspiracy to commit sedition. Because he's addressing foreign nations here. This is him talking to foreign nations. Basically, one could say, inciting them to be aggressive with the United States of America.
Immigration enforcement has been marked by violence and an assault on the dignity of all Chicagoans. I call on this council to hold the federal government of the United States to the same standards of accountability you apply elsewhere in the world. No country should be above international law. I urge the Human Rights Council to consider additional measures of accountability, including a special session to examine the worsening human rights crisis in the United States.
Tom, this is just pure.
This guy's a freaking lunatic. I'm sorry. That guy is a lunatic. This is, I mean, he's a mayor of the third largest city in America.
How are Republicans going to use leverage in
lunacy?
their
What is your
fight with
reaction to all
Democrats
of
when
that?
What is that?
the Democrats are actually the ones with the upper hand?
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I had a little glitch there. All right. Rough night. I need another drink.
Tom, this is just pure lunacy, but what is your reaction to all of that?
He's just proving he's not that smart, right? I mean, asking the United Nations to talk, interfere with ICE enforcing U.S. law, it's like asking an arsonist how to stop a fire, because the UN, remember, the IOM, the part of the UN, helped fund the mass migration during.
I said, to me, this sounds like it could be. I mean, it's freedom of speech, but like when you're asking foreign nations to be aggressive with America, I can understand people making a claim like that.
The Biden administration 4 years, spending millions upon millions of dollars helping that migration, international migration, come to the United States. So, the United Nations is not going to tell President Trump what to do. President Trump was put in office on the promise of making this country safe again, on the promise of having the historic deportation operation. That's exactly what America is getting. Every criminal alien, ICE.
Nana Bear. Listen to me. You're watching on Rumble. I don't know what to tell you. I highly recommend you come over to the portrait version on YouTube. It's the only one that the audio is clear. I don't know why.
Border patrol takes off the street, makes this country safer. We have the most secure border.
I know it's the landscape version. I don't think it's a YouTube thing. I think it's a StreamYard thing. That the stream that's coming out from StreamYard on landscape is fouled up. And I don't understand why that is. That the landscape version is fouled up. But the fact that it's working on portrait tells me it's not me. Because I'm speaking I have the same settings for both landscape and StreamYard as far as the audio. So there's no reason that the landscape version would be fouled up, aside from StreamYard having some sort of issue.
Order in the history of the nation right now, because of leadership, President Trump, the men and women of the Border Patrol, and because ICE, what ICE is doing in the interior every day, they've sent a message across the globe. Don't spend your life savings, cross the border illegally, think you're going to get away in the United States. Because of what ICE.
I know. Now you're just trolling me.
doing. People aren't spending their life savings, putting themselves in harm's way. Thousands of people aren't dying making that journey. Thousands of Americans aren't dying from fentanyl because that secure border. But the actions of the Interior, the ICE and Border Patrol has a lot to do why we have the most secure border in the history of this nation today.
And you're doing such a great job, Tom. Kevin Cork here. You're
Side scroll had the same issues earlier, but not to this degree. Well, look, I'm able to see both sides streaming. It's going to be, I don't know if you'll be able to tell if I show you what it looks like. It'll look like, but I have both versions here. This is what I'll do. This is what I'm going to do for y'all. I'll show you even what it looks like for me. So you can see how I'm able to see both versions here. It's actually kind of cool. That part of this is actually kind of cool. So I'll show you what it looks like from my end over here. If I try showing it live, I'll show you a picture because of it. This is what it looks like from my end of things. It's actually kind of cool. See that? This over here is the landscape version. This side is the portrait version. So that's a new thing. That I never had that before tonight, where there's two of me. It's like I'm watching myself in stereo. Anyhow, so that's Brandon Johnson. They're saying that we need to actually stop people. Like the politicians need to be discouraging this. Brandon Johnson is calling specifically for people to, for the foreign nations to come sanction us, basically. And yeah, they're doing everything they can to incite chaos and mayhem.
Thank you. Coming back to our program. On Chicago specifically, this man remains at large. Is that correct?
Yes, this coward is still at large. We have intelligence. We've been working with our federal law enforcement
It's Trisha McLaughlin, by the way.
partners. We have quite a bit of information on this individual, and he will be brought to justice.
Okay. Tom Homan said this. Roll it number 2, guys. Here we go.
I said, if the hateful rhetoric continues, especially from members of Congress, saying comparing ICE and Nazis and racists and the Gestapo, there's going to be bloodshed. This shooting at the border place in Chicago, just the latest. Bottom line is the bloodshed is going to continue as long as the rhetoric continues, especially from members of Congress.
Trish, you want to back that up?
Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, where is Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson? Where is J.B. Pritzker, the governor of that state?
Yeah, we know where they are. They're out leading the incitement.
And there are foreign terrorist organizations who are going after our law enforcement.
And since I'm a lawyer, I should clarify, it's not technically incitement. It needs to be proximity in time and place. So it's not a legal charge of incitement, but they're doing everything they can to stir up the hornet's nest as much as possible.
Who are shooting at them potentially, who are putting bounties on their head. And then you're hearing the likes of Gavin Newsom and AOC, who not only vilify our law enforcement officers, but they also have been encouraging the resisting of arrest, even holding webinars and giving out pamphlets and other guidelines on how illegal aliens can avoid arrest. We've seen unprecedented numbers of vehicle rammings, these vehicles being used as weapons against our law enforcement, not only by illegal aliens, but also by agitators as well. We've talked a number of times on this program, a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. Americans should not become numb to that statistic. That is stunning. These are men and women who are simply waking up in the morning every single day to enforce the rule of law that's on the books in Congress. And it really is a shame that the Democrat Party has decided that violence against law enforcement is okay. We will continue to do our jobs each and every day and get these violent criminal illegal aliens out of Chicago streets and out of sanctuary cities all over the country.
So Homan mentioned the rhetoric. Go ahead and roll this from the past.
The government needs to get the fuck out of it.
Is looking to.
So There you go. There you go. Pritzker, fat freaking jerk. Fat freaking jerk. Anyhow, more of an update for you on the attempt to catch this guy.
Where is this guy or guys?
This is the manhunt for the person who shot at ICE agents.
So obviously, for law enforcement reasons, can't get into it, but they are out there scouring all leads, surveillance footage, things like that. We're going to find them. And, we've made it clear that if you put your hands on an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent, or if you threaten them, shoot at them, throw rocks, we're going to find you. We're going to prosecute you.
Yeah, I want to get your comment on this latest offender who dodged deportation for years, and then he gets caught with a DWI after killing a man in a hit and run. He's been in here since 2012. 2011, I'm sorry, he entered in, but he had a deportation in 2012. A long rap sheet right there, grand theft auto. How does a guy like this stay in the country? He had plenty of opportunities to get his paperwork done, but he didn't, and then he escalates to DUI, killing someone.
That's the scary part, Lawrence, about these sanctuary jurisdictions, right? Criminal illegal aliens will go to locations where they know that local police or state police won't turn them over to us. And you look at this case, you have somebody that's been here since 2011, identified in 2012, yet he's still out there committing crime. Had we taken action before, that victim of that DUI crash might still be with us today. But that's the issue that we're trying to focus on, is the fact that when you don't work with ICE, tragedies like this happen. And I really wish elected officials would sit down and talk to angel families, kind of like with Operation Midway Blitz that we have named after Katie Abraham that lost her life to a DUI crash for a guy that wasn't supposed to be here. Those are the victims we're fighting for every day. And it's really sad that politicians won't let us do our law enforcement mission.
It is sad indeed. Very, very sad. It's a sad day. But I feel like we're getting closer.
Mayor Brandon.
I feel like we're getting much, much closer. But ICE has been having their issues between Brandon Johnson going after them and shooting at them. And then you have the pepper spray incident, which I thought I had here. I don't know why I don't see the pepper spray incident. In case you're unaware of what the pepper spray incident was, there's a man who alleges that he was shot and his daughter was shot by ICE with respect that they were shot with pepper spray. This is true. And there's a video of him being shot through his window with it looks like some sort of thing comes through the window at him from some unmarked car, and he's saying that it was ICE. Here's the video. There's no audio here. The audio comes in a minute. So here he is.
This is what ICE does. This is what these terrorists do to babies.
Mama, you okay, Mama? You okay? You okay, Mama?
Now, if you look at this video here, this is an unmarked pickup truck. How do you know it's ICE? Why is your window open in Chicago in the middle of winter? It's November. It's cold there. Why is your window open with a little kid in the back? Freezing your kid in the back. What the heck is happening here? How do you know that's ICE? Why are you making the claim that's ICE? And why is your window open? And what made you decide to video right now? Everything about this video was so sus, so incredibly sus, that you know it's ICE somehow. How do they know that you're even a brown person? That they would be firing at you? I mean, they're going past you pretty fast there. You're driving along. Can you ever, when you're driving along a highway, can you ever have any idea the race of the person in the vehicle that's coming towards you that you would just spray pepper spray at them? So clearly, this is complete garbage. Something here is amiss. Something here is awry. It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. And why are you driving there's an unmarked pickup truck which supposedly sprays something. I probably it sprayed something, but you know it's ICE. and ICE somehow knew that you were brown, that they were purposefully trying to shoot you with pepper spray because they assumed you were an illegal alien, and somehow got it right. And why were you videotaping? Like, what made you decide to videotape now? None of this makes any sense. This all seems completely crazy. So I did a little digging on this story. So I just sort of want to get to the bottom of this. I even made this clear where I said, coincidentally happened to be recording, window open in Chicago, November, no markings on the truck. Why would the family even think it was ICE, not some rando? And how did ICE have time to see that they were brown people? That's why I said this was my assessment as to whether or not did this happen. That's your little pie chart there. But when I looked more into this story, when I checked more into this story, when I looked more into this story, and you got to come watch in portrait. Please watch in portrait version. Click the link I pinned in the top and watch in portrait version. So when I looked into this story, what became clear is apparently he had been tailing ICE. That's how he knew it was ICE. That's how we knew. So you're tailing ICE and then they spray you. So this is not just some rando. So you basically were trying to harass ICE with a year-old kid in the back of your car. And there had been and that's why you start videotaping. It's like, oh, let's see what happens when we're trying to harass ICE. So they basically claiming that they basically put themselves in a position to basically be a pain in the to be a PITA. And then when they basically this is basically a classic FAFO moment, and they put their own kid in harm's way and then crying, this is what ICE does. They're so twisted. They're so twisted. This is like a level of sickness. But that's the most likely thing as to what happened here. That there had been incident before this. That's why you start recording. That they were basically following around with that car. That's what was happening here. In case you heard about that story, I just wanted to. Oh, you're referring to the Super Chat going off the YouTube live stream? It opened in vertical mode. Well, I'm actually feeling like Let's Go Brandon did a lot to try pushing us along. And also, we had all these different issues, the audio issues, which is certainly not on any of you. So I'm feeling very generous with this whole thing tonight, that I'm going to basically count it as if we hit our goal. Because you guys basically have been, if you stuck with me this far, you really had to put up with a lot, and I appreciate that. So maybe I should give you a little added. So I plan on covering the Ben Shapiro thing, irrespective of whether or not we hit the goal. Smart meters, a cup of Sue says, smart meters conduct Fourth Amendment searches. XL is using police to compel installation Minnesota, suing them alone. Details on my Rumble channel. Cool. Go check them out. Go check out Cup of Sooth. All right. The audio is an issue with multiple websites and streamers tonight, not just you and not StreamYards. I've been dealing with this. I don't know. I'm so sorry about the audio. It's been a very, very rough night. I should try streaming to locals. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll stream to locals. We'll see how landscape works there. All right. Let me save that. Come out to that. The reason I think this is the most likely thing to have happened, by the way, with that pepper spray incident is because DHS is admitting that, in fact, they did pepper spray. They say we don't pepper spray children. Here are the facts. During an operation, rioters began throwing objects and at agents and blocking the road. This did not occur in a Sam's Club parking lot. Border Patrol deployed crowd control measures and safely cleared the area. When rioters impede law enforcement operations, they're putting officers themselves and others in danger. So I don't know what this means. I don't even know what the heck they're trying to say, but this is not a good look for them. This was a poorly written thing because I'm just more confused. Oh, this is in a Sam's parking lot. Yeah. So I would think that that's basically what happened here, is that these people were dancing with ice. This was not just something that would explain why you started recording it, because they were like, let's see what happens when we're following ice around. Oh, and then they're like, oh man, dang it. That's basically how this whole story plays to me. But if I learn more about it, I will let you know. But I'm going to cover this Ben Shapiro thing because he said something that has a lot of MAGA outraged. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I'm going to get your thoughts on this now. Let's do this. This is what he said. It's a very short clip that was taken of him from somewhere when he was with Trigonometry, which is Constantine something show. And I happen to like him, Constantine. And this is what he said that made people very upset.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up. But the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunities. If you're a young person.
That's what got people very upset at him. That's what got him very, very upset. That's what got people very upset. So I'm wondering, do you think that there's something wrong with what he said there? Is there something wrong with that? I'm going to play it one more time. Basically saying, if you can't afford to live where you are, move.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up. But the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunities.
That's what he said. And the reaction was much of MAGA was very vitriolic. And that's why I want to get your take. I mean, Rich Barrett says, I'm honestly still laughing about this. It's so hilarious because it's such an incredibly dumb statement made by someone presented as smart. It's not. He's not. They're cooked. Talking about Republicans. Does stalking apply if you follow ICE agents? I think that I think there's actually, if you're impeding operations, that itself is a crime. And there are a lot of folks who are very, very mad at Ben Shapiro for this. Kangman Lee, I don't know who this is, but they have 109. They got 3 times as many followers as I have, 3.5. Kangman Lee here says Ben Shapiro's ideology is fundamentally anti-human. He wants us to be forever corporate wage slaves. What? That's not what he's saying. Cogs in a machine, transient global cosmopolitan economic units with no roots, community, heritage, tradition, and soil, who solely exist to serve abstract ideas. The stock market and GDP line go up. Quote, if you can't live in the town of your parents and ancestors anymore because of mass immigration and economic strain, F you loser, just leave and be replaced. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. And it's not because of mass immigration. That's probably not. Just leave and be replaced. That's not what he's saying. But, okay. He fundamentally views America as, this got 1,500 likes. Anyone who believes this is not conservative in any meaningful sense, what do you hope to conserve if you do not wish to conserve your home? Global homo liberalism? And of course, the hypocrisy of it all is that he does not apply any of this logic to Israel for obvious reasons. What? He's talking about the economics. So this is a pretty, in my opinion, pretty stupid take, but this got a lot of love. Not going to kid you. I have to recognize where the love came. And there's a lot of people who are very mad at him. Jessica Vaughn saying, what will they do when they don't have a working class to operate their cities when the industry is so boomers can retain a whopping 50% of all American wealth? Akira the Don, and these are people who, for the most part, I like. Akira the Don, I'm a big fan of his, saying human beings are not interchangeable economic units. I'm a big fan of Rich Barris. That's why I actually reached out to him. You may have saw that he responded to me. But in fact, let me see. If I invited him to come on the show to talk about this. Let's see if he responded. So he's asked me to set up times. He's asked me when and what kind of thing. I asked him to come in because I disagree with his take. I don't think that what Ben Shapiro said is remotely wrong. The reason I don't think it's wrong is because I did this myself. I would have loved to have moved where I grew up 30 years ago when I bought a house. I couldn't afford it in my neighborhood. So I moved to Jersey. I grew up in Queens. And that's where I wanted to raise my family. And I started raising my family there. And when it got time for us to buy a house, I was like, I can't afford anything here. So I moved. And he's right when he says historically, it's not because of mass immigration. Yeah, I mean, housing prices are astronomical now compared to what they were in the early aughts when I bought my house, in the mid to early aughts. I moved in here like 21 years ago or so, 2004 or so. So, but I wasn't able to afford a house in my own neighborhood. So I found a house in another neighborhood. That's not crazy. And America, I mean, I don't even understand the take that so many people here are saying, because America as the land of opportunity. I mean, some people are trying to use the opportunity to say, yeah, okay, it's all about Israel. No, you know what? If your area is not, if you can't live there financially, find a different area. But people think I have to be able to live here. Why? You don't have to live in New York City. No one has to live in New York City. Just because you grew up in New York doesn't mean you have to live in New York City or whatever area you're in. I don't know. You could be in LA or some other area. Why do you have to live in an area where I don't understand why people are so angry at him? They're saying you're giving up your roots. You're not giving up your roots. You're building a home. So many people went out west for the gold rush, and that's how California got settled. Everything off of the eastern seaboard was colonized by Americans who were looking for the opportunities that he's describing. It's as American as apple pie. That when people needed more opportunities, more money, you're trying to, as the area was getting saturated. This is not saying that illegal immigration is okay. Nothing about that is saying that. It's simply saying, hey, get off your butt and basically recognize that you don't have an entitlement to live in the community you grew up. The entire Midwest to Western United States was settled and colonized by people who were looking for more opportunity. People have been doing this, and ever since people started migrating westward on this continent, they've been migrating back and forth. People move for a good job all the time. So I don't even understand why. I don't even understand it. I didn't see the episode Trigonometry. You're saying he was referring specifically to New York City? Probably. Oh, look at this. Allegan's saying the same thing as me. You have to move with opportunities. This is how we settle the West. Don't stay in place without opportunities and expect better results. The definition of madness is to keep trying the same thing and expect a different result. It is the definition of madness. They're not mad at Ben for this. The segment of the paleo right that has always hated him. No small amount of Jew hatred involved. Ben's not wrong. He's completely right in what he's saying there. That's the more I watched, I was like, he's not saying leave America. He's not saying leave the country. That's how people are trying to make it sound, as if he's saying leave America, find somewhere else. Where would do you think he would say you would find more opportunity than in this country? The free market encompasses not only the stock market, but also the places we live and the ways we earn a living. This is true too. This is true too. And I agree with this take also. He says some things I really disagree with, and I'm like, what? No, that's not cool. I'm checking the ghetto, see what you guys are saying. Is my audio still terrible there? Let me see. I'm checking the ghetto, see what you guys are saying. Oh, there's a lag. Is my audio still terrible there? Oh my God. So bad. So bad. It's so bad. Now, there's a different element, which is what I think Rich Barris was talking about, which is that's not a position a Republican politician necessarily can take. Because I do agree with Rich that the GOP struggles to understand what works and what doesn't work. So I agree with him. I agree with him on that. Like if you're Mike Johnson, I don't think you can say, I don't think that as a politician, you can say to people, move. I'm honestly still laughing about this. It's so hilarious because it's such an incredibly dumb statement made by someone presented as smart. That's why I wanted to talk to Rich Barris about this. I'm like, I don't understand what that means. Why are you saying that? If he was a politician, I would say this is a stupid thing to say. But if he, as a political pundit, I don't think there's anything stupid in what he's saying there. It's a reflection of what actually has happened historically. Nobody just decided, okay, I'm going to travel 1,000 miles west and set up a home there because things were going economically swimmingly, that they were like, basking in luxury on the East Coast. Everyone who came to this country over the last 250 years, 97% of them, until we started having more people walking across our border, they all came from the East Coast. If you go back to anyone who came to this country more than 75 years ago, they all came in by boat from Europe and landed somewhere on the eastern seaboard and then made their way west. Now, once planes came in, people started flying in, but you understand what I'm saying. This entire country was set up by people saying, what's here on the East Coast is not good enough for me. Now, some of them tried living on the East Coast and then eventually said, hey, you know what? Maybe there's better opportunity in the Midwest or on the West Coast. But that's how this entire country got settled. Now, that's not something you could tell a 21st century, perhaps a 21st century Zoomer might not want to hear that. That's possibly true. I can understand that doesn't poll well. So if you're running for office, I don't know if you can say that, because people will be like, "What are you telling me? You have no answers for me? You tell me move? That's what you're telling me? I got nothing for you. Move." I can understand how politically it doesn't play well. As far as it being common sense, though, as far as it being the logical approach to a situation, how do I deal with the problem I'm dealing with now? That is the simplest answer. Find someplace better. Yeah, and that's what ends up happening is that certain areas will get saturated with people and it gets like overpriced. The Oregon Trail agrees with me and Ben. Desync. I know it's bad. Click the link and watch on. The audio is fine in portrait version of YouTube. All right. I know you're on Rumble, but I can't fix it on Rumble. I have the same problem in landscape on YouTube. I don't know why there's an issue with landscape. So I don't know what to tell you. All right, I'm not going to kid you. I'm very, very frustrated. This entire audio thing is really, it's bothering me a great deal. So I'm going to be landing my plane. I'm sorry for that. I'm hoping that I can have this entire situation remedied by tomorrow when I come back for my show, my Tuesday night show. But I can't do this. I can't. I'm getting very, very, very frustrated. Consider Dutch settlers who initially settled in New Amsterdam and later migrated westward whenever they felt the local community lacked true Dutch culture, such as speaking Dutch in church. Yeah, that's what people do. You find a better community because it's something that fits you and your economic strata. That's what folks do. That's how humans have lived forever. For the last 2.5 centuries. Anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry. I see a lot of... You're saying it's not my audio, but it is. It's the audio you're getting from me. You see what I'm saying? The audio you're getting from me isn't working. So I don't think it's something that's technical on my end. I do think it's a StreamYard thing. Or maybe, I don't know, people are saying it's across platforms. I think it's a StreamYard thing. So I'm going to find out what the problem is. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And if it's not remedied, I'll find some way else to stream. If StreamYard can't get this thing fixed, I need to be streaming. That's what I need to be doing. Anyway. So that's my show, God willing, tomorrow. It will, hopefully, the audio will be infinitely better. I thank you all for joining me. I expect to be back, God willing, tomorrow evening, hopefully at 10 o'clock. I want to start getting back towards 10 o'clock shows. And I'm going to remind you that lab meat is definitely not meant for you. It's meant for they, them. You don't want it. Don't touch any part of it. It's not meant for you. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. My apologies again. Have a good night and Godspeed.